think I would love to do is just kind of share a little bit about Barnana, a little bit about what we're doing here, maybe touch a little bit about my time at SDSU. I wasn't relatively a good student. And so I just want to say in advance, thank you for making SDSU a more competitive university to get into and making all of us alums look better. Because when I got into SDSU, it was a lot less competitive. So you guys are all orders of magnitude more intelligent than your predecessors are. So kudos to you guys. So yeah, I was a finance undergrad at SDSU. Here, I'll pull up a little deck, and I'm going to embarrass myself here. And like I said, please interrupt if you guys have questions and any thoughts. So I was a finance undergrad at SDSU. I was convinced that I was going to be an investment banker. That was that was my idea, and then this was also my plan in college, probably similar to a lot of you guys, which is, hey, it's a linear thing. It's up and to the right. You just put the time in, and life is going to be progressive. And I was convinced, like I said, I was going to be a banker, and that is the farthest from reality. And if there's one thing you take away from us chatting today, is this is what life is like. It is not linear. It is amazing, but this is also why there's beauty in life. Because if it was just up and to the right, that would be quite boring. It would be so predictable, right? I mean, we're living through a global pandemic, and that is not predictable. And I think there's beauty in that. There's beauty in all the opportunity it presents and all the chaos it presents. I learned that later on in life, and I'm probably still. I think we're all still learning that. And that has definitely been my journey. As I said, I thought I was going to be a banker, and this is the aspiring young banker at SDSU. So, Andrew, I know you're giggling there, but Jenny, you and I knew each other at this time. This is my sophomore year at SDSU. I'm the guy in the middle, very awkwardly appearing to be feeling like I am belonging, but I was not. Perfect look for a banker, I must tell you, right? I mean, I was living the part before I was even in the professional career. So I thought I was going to be a banker. This is what happened when I graduated in 2009. So it's probably not the best time in the economy to be an undergrad with a finance degree. Very proud. So what we do at SDSU very well, all of us, is we're resourceful, right? That's what SDSU teaches us, to be resourceful. And so that was not the plan, to be a banker after I graduated. I did what I would say most well-educated, mindful, budget-oriented college students do, is I decided to travel to Europe for about 3 or 4 months. And this is me very sober in Pamplona. I was definitely it was actually, it was an excuse because there was no jobs and I had a little bit of money. So I was like, let's go. But it turned out to be a blessing because it allowed me to like recenter. And, I think you guys, or whoever's graduating or working on businesses, we feel like we wear our education on our sleeve. And, it's just very valid because we spent 4 years doing this, and you would want to think that that's the direction you want to go. And traveling for a bit helped me realize that the world's just so much more interesting than what we learned in college or what we feel like we have preparation to go execute on. And when I got back, I got really lucky. This is pre-Barnana. I met a gentleman that was raising money in La Jolla for a startup. And as a banker, aspiring banker, I had one skill set, which was really good in Excel. And I convinced him to build his forecast for the business. And it was a membership business. And so I built his forecast for him, totally free, no compensation. All I knew was Excel. And he called me a month later and said, "Hey, we just raised money, and you're the only person that knows how to use this damn model. So you got to come on the team and help us build this out." So that was my first job out of college. It's called Bump. This is us at South by Southwest. I was 21 years old. I was brought on as a VP of finance. And as you guys know, coming out of SDSU, you're not a VP of finance. I had zero experience, a role that I should not have been in. But it was an amazing journey. That business raised like $7 million, and I was running a team of 4 people, and I shouldn't have been, but that's just the situation I found myself in. But through that whole thing, it taught me, one, that I wanted to lead my own business, right? And I learned the ins and outs of raising capital through being in that business and reporting to investors. And I just felt like, because I was in a role I probably shouldn't have been in, it was more of a symbolic role where I didn't really have the opportunity to make decisions. And for good or for worse, like, you want to pay for the decisions you make, whether they're the right or wrong ones. And I really felt that's what I wanted to do. So I ended up meeting my two partners in Barnana through that business. One was Andrew. You're laughing because there's Coway there and Nick, and we're all a lot more youthful. So this is 2011. We're in La Jolla. I graduated in 2009. So, what, 3 years after graduating, and we started Barnana. And the idea for Barnana, and until I love what you're working on, idea for Barnana back then was, hey, there's all this food waste out there, and bananas happen to be the most wasted produce item. And we're going to collect all the bananas that don't make it to produce, and we're going to make snacks out of them. It was inspired by this really hideous, popular snack in Brazil called bananania, and this was a very, very still is a very popular snack in Brazil. And our idea was naive, it was optimistic, and we said, hey, we're going to take this snack and we're going to package it up, and we're going to create a brand around all things banana. I can tell you, for anybody that's starting a business, you're doing something right when people look at you like multiple times. They're like, are you sure you want to do this? Are you certain that you're going to do this? When you convince your parents that you're going to start a banana company, and they're just like, you've really lost it when you went to Europe, and we've totally written you off. We bought a ton of books. We did a bunch of research until this is probably exactly what you guys are doing, or anybody that's starting a business. You just dive in and get educated. And the stats we learned, like I said, banana is the most wasted produce item. We had some really good inspiration. We said, hey, this is our back of the napkin business plan. These brands were around when we were starting this business. And we said, hey, like, if Samazon and Vita Coco and Palm can create brands that are worth $100 million, and bananas are way more popular than coconuts or acai berries or pomegranates, we could probably do this, right? That was the back of the napkin. Like, bananas are so much more consumed than any of these fruits, and they're branding the fruits, so we have a shot at this. So that's really what convinced us to go, and we created the brand. So we've done an amazing job over the last 10 years. It's been a journey that has been mired with a lot of challenges, and I'm happy to ask any questions or open to talk about that. But as Jenny mentioned, the bananas are really wasted. We've built this brand called Barnana. You can check out the website, and it's just been an amazing journey. Launched a ton of products. We've been featured in a ton of press. Gotten to Starbucks. Like, we've diversified the product line. We've had a ton of fun while doing it. We're a certified B Corp, and just been like, it's been literally the highlight of my life to be able to do this and have fun while doing it and work with great people. We've now upcycled 100 million bananas. As of last year, is 85 million. So feel really good about the work we've contributed. And ultimately, like, this is the trend right here. Like, I'm breezing through this, but I am more convinced than ever that this war on big food will not stop. It will continue. Our generation, I'm saying that with a lot of liberalism there, because I am part of your guys' generation, does not buy into this dogma that big food is doing justice for who we are. They're not serving the meals or the food that we want to consume. And there is a war on it, and it's not going to end. And this is the landscape of big food. And I would say most people would look at this and say, you're crazy to want to start a business in this industry. And I look at this and I say, there's just so much opportunity, because most of these brands mean nothing to people coming into the world today. If anything, these big brands have negative brand equity. I always use this litmus test of, in every industry, there is a trusted brand. Like, in computers, there's Apple, and cars, there's Tesla, and we can go down the list, and everybody can be like, yeah, I really feel like that brand speaks to me. There's not that brand in food. And it's just broken. It's very broken. And there's just a ton of opportunity. And I've been so fortunate to be able to live and play in this industry, and ultimately have a net benefit on people's health. And that's what we're doing now. So we just started a new brand, and it's called Can Do. It's a line of low sugar, low carb protein bars. It's been 18 months in, and the brand's been enjoying a lot of success. It's been started in COVID, so it's been a bit of an interesting go-to-market. The brand is based off of this idea. It's about what you can do, not what you can't do. And so a la think Nike, but we're highlighting the average, consumer, and everybody has like a journey or a story. And it's about just fueling your day and achieving a little bit better than what you were the day before. And it started by this most amazing individual. His name's Adam Bremen. He lost 70 pounds in a wheelchair. He has cerebral palsy by eating keto. It's kind of one of those things when you guys are all doing stuff in your life where you want to work with people that are just good people and have fun and make a difference. And this is that individual, and just feel so blessed to be able to work with him and build the brand. And this is the product line. So we have a bunch of products that are all low carb, low sugar protein bars. And it's been a wild journey. So you can buy these. We're in 18 months, we're distributed pretty good in natural, specialty, and mass and club across the country. And we're just going at it and having fun with it. So that's like the really condensed Barnana can-do journey. Like I said, I don't want death by PowerPoint. I have some thoughts, but I'll save them to the end. And so like, I would just love people to chime in and ask questions there. And I glossed over a ton, but what do you guys, and like I said, no question if you want to ask me about raising anything, any question at all.
Matt, I've got a question for you. Thank you for that overview.
Yeah.
So you talked about, your limited experience in finance and jumping into Bump as the VP of finance. And then you shift gears totally with a different industry, with Barnana. What was your understanding or knowledge of nutrition?
Yeah, zero. I had zero.
So what was it like navigating that space for you?
So one of the things I think is super important, and I'll just go back to one of these slides, but it's whenever you go into a new business, it's picking your partners. And I've always been a big believer that if there is a partner in the business that has the same skill set as you, they're not needed. Like, you have to be that ruthless, because in the early stage, you need to be as nimble as possible, and you want the most diverse set of skill sets, because everybody's a doer in the beginning, right? And in founding Barnana, the three of us were completely different. So I came with like a sales, finance, operations, I wouldn't really call it a background. It was a couple of years of experience, but that's where my skill set tend to lean. Nick was very much marketing, branding, design, and so critical. And Cowway was very much sourcing, story, origin, product, right? So we had the universe covered, and I would encourage everybody to try to think about that. So I didn't spend a lot of time thinking about nutrition. That was what Cowway did. I spent most of the time thinking about, hey, how do we finance this? How do we scale it? And how do you sell it? And that's really, obviously you're thinking about everything, but I didn't get mired into the nutrition side of it too much. As we grew, you learn as you go, but it wasn't something that I was on.
Okay, good to know. So Aaliyah has a question for you. She said, what were your biggest obstacles when creating these companies, and how did you overcome them?
I think the biggest obstacle in food is, it's like, if any professors are going to tell you, don't go into the food industry because it's capital intensive, it's low margin, it's dominated by that slide I showed you guys. So it's really like against the advice of any MBA professor. And I think the biggest challenge in this industry is being laser focused and showing success, and then being able to raise capital on that success, right? These are expensive businesses to build. In Barnana, we've raised north of 20 million. And then in this business, we're already raising a decent amount of capital. And so they're expensive businesses to build. And I think you just have to go into that being mindful of that. But I would say that's a challenge. And it's a challenge for, if you're going to get into the industry, just be mindful of that and be ready for that journey and be ready for the dilution that causes.
Can I speak, Jenny? Can I speak?
Sure. Sure, go for it.
Yeah, I'm one of those MBA professor. This is Jamin Kim. I'm in finance department, and Matt is of course finance major. He didn't take my class. Maybe he was smart even back then, right? But he was my guest speaker in my MBA entrepreneurship courses, and you were hugely popular. And for whatever the reasons, you're no longer the guest speaker, then the enrollment in my class seems to have gone down. So I don't know, but it's not a question. I just want to thank you for visiting us again and share your stories, because students loved it. I loved it. The down to earth style, like, friendly, graphics and stuff. I really loved that. And then I heard about you. You got married, and today I learned that you became a dad. So that's all good. I'm just wondering, did I even pay for your parking back then when I invited you? Yeah,
I still have an outstanding a bill, I think.
if I haven't, I'd like to apologize right now.
One fun fact for everybody that SDSU has been such a gift to me outside of the education is I met great friends like Jenny there, and I met my wife at SDSU, and now we have two kids, and it's just been, and I love getting back on campus, and I love talking to the students because I'm just inspired by how the game has been elevated. It's just it's an elevated experience, and that's what you want to see.
And
Absolutely.
and also I'd like to kind of comment on the cause, right? I mean, I'm pretty familiar with the investment banker route, right? I mean, nothing's wrong with being an investment banker and everything, but there are many students here, you know, I know it's a cliche, but God, as a young man, don't you want to do something that is meaningful, folks? And I'm so glad that, Matt, you're continuing that tradition and so forth. So a lot of shout outs and kudos. Thank you. And I'm gonna shut up.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Yeah,
you
it's
for
been,
that.
been a pleasure.
So we actually had two questions come through on the chat, both very similar, but inquiring about moments where you felt fearful or intimidated in your entrepreneurship journey. And can you just share maybe some of those moments and how you found the courage to face them?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think I somewhat still struggle with this. I've overcome a lot of it. I definitely had a chip on my shoulder coming out of SDSU, and it was only when I started, like in the early stages of Barnana, realizing you start interacting with, especially in the investment community. There's this homogeny around Harvard, Stanford, and Wharton, and like that who I was interacting with when I was raising capital, or our cap table had a lot of those similar pedigrees, and it took me a while to shake off that these people are by any means superior to you, right? I mean, like it took me a bit to realize that it doesn't matter. Like none of that stuff matters. Like it doesn't matter at all. And like I probably it probably wasn't until like 5 or 6 years after I graduated where I was convincing myself. For the whole time, I convinced myself that I needed to go back and get my MBA. I was like, I have to go back to get my MBA, and I have to go to Harvard or Stanford, and that's the only way that I will deem it to be successful. Like that's the narrative I had in my head as a young entrepreneur. And I had like, I think it was something I had to prove to myself, but over time I realized it's just like so stupid. It's just like the most futile waste of your time. Then spend that energy in just doing good stuff, right? Now I think everybody's journey is different, but I know that was a crutch that I had to get over. Um, and I would say I'm mostly over it. There's still moments where I probably want to think about that, but it's not. There's no reality in like your pedigree. Like I mean, there's reality in like the recruiting side of your pedigree. Don't get me wrong, but not the execution and mindfulness and intelligence side of where you went to school.
Great advice. Thanks for sharing that. And I think we commonly hear that one of the worst habits we have as humans is comparison. we're constantly comparing ourselves to others. And so that's a reality check of, doesn't matter in the long
Jenny,
run.
there's such a great trope on that. And, we do that often. We compare because it's easy. It comes naturally for our species to do that. And I just am always reminded that if you're trying to be like somebody else, you're signing up for second place just by virtue of doing that. Think about it. If you're trying to be like somebody else, you're already in second place. So why in the world would you ever do something where you're gonna guarantee to be in second place? So my pitch is like, be the best you, embrace all of it, the good, the bad, the ugly, because guess what? Nobody else is going to be able to do that. Nobody, just by virtue of being the best you. So I have lived that. It comes off brash sometimes, but just be the best you and embrace it.
Yeah, so true. So we've got quite a few questions coming in. Next one's from Doug Brantley. What are some common food and beverage mistakes that you've seen? When were the MBA professors right or wrong? Haha.
Well, I didn't get my MBA, so they're all wrong.
Or
So I have the ability to be biased there. So I think in food, it's as you saw that landscape, it's a challenging industry, um, but it's less challenging if you stay laser focused in the beginning because there's specialty, club, natural. There's so many channels that you can sell food. Food's available everywhere, and I think you want to create a story. And so be really, really focused on creating a story. Obviously, you create the story of the product and why it's different, but you want to marry that with the objective data story, and that is we do well. Like this product sells. We put on the shelf, it sells, and so I think when you're early stage creating a food company, you say, hey, our theory is X, and we're going to prove that by going into this retailer, and we're going to show successful turns, which is velocity, out of that retailer. And then you have a lot more compelling story. You have the brand story and the product story, and then you have the data story. And if you put that in a package, it's a lot easier to capitalize that.
so just kind of piggybacking that question, can you compare your experience with getting retail distribution pre-COVID versus post-COVID or during COVID?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's been so fascinating to watch COVID play its way through the food industry. So, one thing we didn't talk about, but like how much of all life is luck. I mean, there is a chance that I could have been in hospitality, right? I mean, I think about this all the time that don't chalk up your success or your failures to your own agency, right? Like we have agency over some things, but a lot of this is timing and luck. And COVID has been ultimately a huge gift for the food and beverage industry. If you look at capital allocated to industry, there's been more capital allocated to food and beverage industry over the last 18 months than most industries because it's fared relatively well. Yeah, retail, like grab and go and some other categories have been hurt, but like pasta, anything in the pantry has been phenomenal. Now, the nutrition bar space is down 25% year over year in COVID. So the idea is people are not on the go. They're not eating nutrition bars and they're not as busy. And so when we first built the plan for Can Do to go to market, originally we were like, this was in April, we're not going to focus on retail. We're going to focus on D2C. But what ended up happening is the category has been down so much. And since we're new, we have positive dollars going to the category. And we've been able to sell into all these new retailers because we have a story to say, we'll bring your category back to growth. So what once looks like a challenge really was the best selling tool we could have had. And in a period of 8 months, I have never seen it's crazy. We've locked down Costco, Walmart, HEB, Whole Foods nationwide, and it's just been an unbelievable timing. And I think a lot of that is also luck, right? Keto is a trend, bar categories down, and so it's been a wild journey.
That's awesome to hear. I've always heard luck is when preparation meets opportunity. So
Yeah.
happy to hear you were prepared to take advantage of all those opportunities. Okay, so next question from John Berger. What steps did you take in terms of legal or liability issues in regards to launching a food product? How do you protect yourself in the early stages?
Let's cue up Andrew. I don't know how many calls have I had with Andrew, but are we going to get sued here? I mean, no, look, we had Mints from early on, and I gotta say, like what Andrew and Mints are doing here. I mean, when I met Andrew, I was 23 years old, and really didn't know what we were doing. And they took a flyer on us, and it's turned out well. And we built an amazing friendship over the years, and we've definitely had plenty of awkward calls, whether it's like, somebody chips their tooth, or, this is gonna, and, you get money chasing lawyers around claims around packaging. And like, I think one of our board members explained this to me well, is that unfortunately it's a cost of doing business. And I vividly remember our first lawsuit in Barnana. And the unfortunate part is it does jade you. And I hate that. Like, I wanted to make it not jade me, because I wanted to be like this, like, everybody's great, everybody's here to help, like, we're changing the world, like, it's going to be fine. But everybody's looking to make a dollar at the end of the day. And it did jade me. It jaded me on, like, how could this person be coming after us? We're like this small little $5 million company. So it's going to happen. Like, it's inevitable. Success brings people wanting to take a rake on success. And it's just a cost of doing business in a way. And you just got to be mindful going into it. Now, do all your stuff to mitigate it. But even when you mitigate it, there's going to be money chasing class action lawyers that are going to want to take a piece of it.
For sure. And John, who asked the question, he's already aware, but we work closely with Mints, and Mints provides hours to all of our teams so that they can get the legal advice they need to properly protect themselves. So that's just a little plug for everyone else who may be interested in joining the Zip Launchpad.
And I just, another plug on that, I can't express how valuable that is. And like, if not Mints in general, but like, I could tell you a good lawyer like Andrew is $750 to $800 an hour. So him being on this call, you can just do the math, right? And so it is a lot of value. My time's probably like $25 an hour, so way more competitive.
We are grateful for Mints. Okay.
Well, let me quickly jump in there. Matt has been fantastic to work with. So is the Zip Launchpad, and I strongly encourage all of you to try Can Do and the Barnana. Both of them delicious. I could tell you whenever we get them in the house, they're gone real fast. The kids eat them up right away, and so it's always fun from a legal standpoint to work with fun clients. And so you guys, they've been great to work with, especially Matt. But one quick question for you, Matt. Did you really run with the Bulls?
I did. Well, so that's a great question. So it's in Pamplona, Spain. They have the way they set this up, and the Bulls are in the back, and all these drunk Australians mainly queue up in front of the Bulls, like right before they let them out. And I was not a drunk Australian. I was a semi-sober American. And I was like, I don't know about that one. Those guys are a little bit too excited about that. So I positioned myself in front of, I created a little barrier of Australians in front of me. And then when I knew the Bulls were behind me, I quickly averted to the side to let the Bulls pass. So I didn't try to stay in front of the Bulls. Also a little risky, but I de-risked the situation, as much as I could.
Good to hear. Good strategy. All right. Next question is from Natasha. Natasha is wondering, how did you reach out to investors? Where did you find them? And then she also inquired if you ever applied for any grants.
Two great questions. On the grant side, we didn't take advantage of that, and I wish we would have. And I think there's more and more grant opportunities than ever right now. And I would absolutely encourage everybody to take advantage of that. One, most importantly, because this first round you raise, if you are raising money, is the most expensive round that you will ever raise if it's successful, right? I mean, nobody wants to go back and do the math, but it is painful to, like, our first round. I don't mind sharing. We we had the idea. We convinced our friends and family that it was good. We convinced our families that you should let us do this. And then we had proof of concept of Barnana. We went to a trade show in Anaheim called Natural Expo West. We all put like $5,000 into the business, and so we had a booth at this trade show. I'm not kidding. We had to Photoshop a business license. We did Photoshop a business license. We did not have a business license, so we had no reason being there other than the fact that we wanted to say, "Hey, like, is this something that people that don't know us are gonna like?" Like, we wanted to have validation outside of our echo chamber. So we we literally created a mock booth of a business. We had like the brand, the design, and then at that trade show, we just said yes to everybody. We're like, oh yeah, we'll sell to you for sure. Like, it was retailers on the East Coast. It was retailers in like everywhere. We just said yes. And then we walked away and said, oh shit, like we just said yes to everybody. Like, we got to figure this out. But then that gave us the ammo to go and raise capital. We're like, look, it's not just a San Diego thing. Like, people want to buy this product. And then we raised, right after that trade show, we raised $300,000 at a 1.2 million pre-money valuation. And so you can see what percentage, that's a very big chunk of the business. And, I think at that point we were like, we were happy that anybody would give us some money to figure this out. Right. So I think that the people at that stage took the commensurate amount of risk. I think that there was a ton of risk at that stage, and those people did really well. And they deserved to do well. And it took 10 years, but it did well. And so I would just say, if you can mitigate that with grants, go ahead and do it all day long.
Okay. It's awesome to hear these stories of validating ideas before, diving all in. Do you have any other stories like that with validating any of your businesses?
Yeah. I mean, we were at Barnana so scrappy. So we did that trade show. And literally, when we were at the trade show, we went to FedEx Kinko's and we printed on sticker paper the label. And then we bought our product at that point was sold in a pouch. We bought clear pouches on Amazon. And by the way, Amazon Prime was not 2-day. So it was like a week it took to get them. And then we stickered the pouches. And we were like, yeah, we have product. Like, it was like, it was so, and then we went to Whole Foods, and I took those stickered pouches and I put it where I thought it should be in Whole Foods, 10 of them. And I sat in the aisle, I stood in the aisle, and I just watched people. And then when somebody picked it up, I was like, do you like that product? Have you heard of it? What do you want? Like, what are you interested in? What would you pay for that? Like, cause there was no tags, and I just wanted to talk to, like, why did you pick it up? What was it about? And I had to unfortunately take it out of their hands, and you can't buy that because it's not for sale. But I mean, we did that. We just like want to learn what people are going to be interested in.
Oh, that's awesome. It's good to hear. So Jaden wants to know, where did the name Barnana come from?
This is actually a great story, because for the longest time we had the story that sounded good, and then there's the real story. So I'll tell you both, and you guys will all appreciate me a lot less about. So the story that sounds good is bananas are nature's original energy bar, right? I think it's like a decently good story selling for PR. The real story is, when we wanted to launch the business, we were going to launch a bar. We were so convinced we were going to launch the first banana-based bar. And we were in La Jolla. I had this guy, Jeff Gragg. I mean, he's a SDSU alum, amazing guy. He was the founder of Evolution Fresh and Naked Juice. He lives in San Diego. This is a stand-up person. And he was like, guys, I'm telling you right now, you do not want to launch a bar. Ironically, here I am having a bar brand 10 years later. But, and so we just were like, this is a crisis moment. So we decided to just chop the bars up in little pieces and put it in a pouch, but we didn't change the name. And so we kept with the name Barnana, and we don't make a bar. Eventually we will launch a bar, and people are gonna be like, those guys, they were really thoughtful ahead of their time.
Awesome. So Hee Susong asked, what do you like most about entrepreneurship?
Um, it's hard for me to answer that because I only had 2 years of working for another business. So this has been this is my life. I'm literally at my house. My dog is laying here, and like I've just always worked to the beat of our own drum. Um, I think that's what I like most about it. I think I like that, you know, it's up to you. It's up to you. Like if you don't do your work, like every life has most times in life, there's a one-to-one correlation to where you put your energy and your effort. Like if your relationship is going well, or your business is going well, or if your health is going well, or if it's not going well, it's usually correlated to the degree in which your time is allocated to those things. And I like that. I like that feedback loop in life, right? I like having that, for better or for worse, right? Because I can tell you when I don't feel healthy and I'm out of shape, I also don't like that, and knowing I need to put more time in there. But I tend to have that personality.
Awesome. So John wants to know if you have any advice for students unsure of what they want to pursue in their career.
Yeah, I think it's so tough. And like, I just want to pause and say that I always hated if I'm putting myself back at SDSU, when guest speakers would come and they would tell this story and like everything sounds so good and easy and I thought it was a bunch of bullshit, because like I can tell you right now, I'm telling you a story looking backwards. Like I'm looking in the rearview mirror and I'm saying, this is what happened. We did this or that. Like it all made so much sense. But the reality is like none of it made any sense when you're making the decision, right? Like if we all collectively look forward, it gets a lot harder to say what we're going to do, like where can do shows up. Like we have a strategy, but the outcome might be very different, right? And so like all this, big grain of salt, right? Like I hate it when it does. It's not easy and it's not perfect. It's marred with uncertainty and unknowns, and that's part of like the beauty in it. And just embrace it. If I was leaving college today, I would just like find. I know this also sounds cliche, but be good at like one thing. Like be really good. Have like one domain that you're just the best at, right? Or the best you can be at it, whether it's like basket weaving or Excel spreadsheets or rock climbing. I don't know. Like it doesn't matter what it is, but be great at one thing. And usually that opens up the door to a community that's also great at that stuff. And you have, like in my world, I loved triathlon. And so I met Mitch, who started Bump via triathlon. And because we were both competitive, we had a relationship of equals. Even though I was 21 and he was 44, we had an equal relationship because we were training together and we were talking about swimming and biking and running. And it was a relationship of equals, hence why he wanted to bring me on his business, right? But that was an equalizing event. And so if you have that passion or that thing, it's like a leapfrog, because you're connecting on a passion and not on what you can do for me. I hope that makes some sense.
I think so. All right, so we've got one more question. We probably have time for 2 or 3 more if anyone else has some lingering questions. Till said, thanks for destroying his Harvard MBA dreams. He wants to know, did you have investors, did any of your investors express concern about conglomerates taking your idea before the first round?
No, I think I've worked with now 2 large CPG brands, the 2 largest ones out there, and been working closely with them. And I can tell you from firsthand experience that these companies can't get out of their own damn way. Like to think that they have the nimbleness to steal trade secrets, it's just not going to happen. They're so messed up, these big companies. It's amazing that they're as big as they are, but I just think the nature of a big business, it's so hard for them to get out of their own way. And if they wanted to steal your idea, it's going to take it 4 years for them to do it. Like, and so you'll be either saying this was a bad idea, didn't work, or you're going to be well on your way before they can even try to do it. That's been my take. And also in the food industry, there's really no IP. I mean, everything we do is printed on the back of the panel. So it's not like there's a lot. I mean, now get like Beyond Meat, I get it. Like there's a little bit of IP there, and some of that. But most of the stuff industry, there's not that much IP, and so it really rests down to we're creating a connection with the consumer, and we're telling them a story, and that's what matters. And big companies can't replicate that because they're so out of touch.
Okay, thanks for that input.
Which I will add, which is why it's important to protect your brand, because that
Yeah.
becomes a real big asset.
Totally. The brand is everything. The brand is absolutely everything, because that's your enterprise value. Because these big companies, they can't create brands. For firsthand example, like $100 million in Coca-Cola or Danone or Pepsi is like a complete rounding error. Like if it's 100, they're going to cancel the project. It's like not successful. $100 million in our world is like, holy shit, we've freaking triple home run, amazing, right? And this is essentially the world that we live in.
So true. Okay, Matt, I know you are a voracious reader, especially seeing all the books behind you. Do you have any resources, books you'd like to share or recommend to all of us today?
Yeah. So I have it just pains me confession, because I have 2 young kids. It's been 18 months since I finished a whole book, and I can't tell you how painful that is for me to confess that. The books that so 18 months ago, I haven't read anything recently, but Shoe Dog is an amazing book. I'd really recommend that. I feel like just so authentic around brand building. Uh, I'm really into Stoicism. So As a Man Thinketh by James Allen is an amazing book. Viktor Frankl, he is phenomenal. Um, and yeah, those are 3 that I think are on my go-to.
Awesome. Okay, thanks for sharing. So one last question, where do you see yourself in 5 or 10 years?
Well, my kids will be 12, which is just hard to digest. And I don't know. I think I would love to be giving back to the community more, like we're doing this. I'm really, really bullish on just San Diego in general. I mean, I just moved back down here a year ago. Spent 7 years in LA, and this city is so underrated, in my opinion, from just living in the Bay Area or LA. Amazing. Like this is just the best place to live in the world. And so I'm really long San Diego in general. Anybody that wants to get involved, I'm on the board of Naturally San Diego. So if you're interested in the natural foods community, we're building an entire community of natural foods. So here, just a plug is San Diego is a sleeper in regards to consumer. So we have brands like Suja, Dr. Bronner's, we have Stone, we have Once Upon a Farm, we have Chosen Foods, we have like Bumblebee Tuna. We have some really big brands, and Dole has a place here. So like from CPG, it's an amazing place to be for San Diego, and I want to cultivate that stronger. And we should be working with SDSU more to create a funnel for people that want to get into CPG. And it is increasingly becoming a hub for CPG, which I love.
Awesome. Well, I know San Diego is happy to have you back, so it's a good thing. All right. So, Matt, thank you so much. Thank you for your time, for your candor, for sharing your journey with us. We are so grateful. There's just 2 things I want to throw out there before we part ways today. One, the Zip Launchpad, we are a resource available to all students, staff, and faculty. We can help you in all these aspects of business that Matt talked about today, even if it's building a team with diverse skill sets. I know we have quite a few students in attendance from all, different colleges on campus. We have quite a few nutrition students who are joined us today. So if any of you are interested in pursuing any entrepreneurial endeavors, we can surround you with the people that can help make it a success.